Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Chandra Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Chandra Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Chandra Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we actually had two short verses without a very little, very little purport to finish this chapter 20. So we'll just read those and then we'll go into the next chapter. So we have verses 38 and 39, 9th Canto, chapter 20, verses 38 and 39. I'll just read the translations because we have the chapter summary for the next chapter, plus a few verses before there's a purport. So 38. Brihaspati said to Mamata, "You foolish woman, although this child was born from the wife of one man through the semen discharged by another, you should maintain him." End quote. Upon hearing this, Mamata replied, "O Brihaspati, you maintain him." After speaking in this way, Brihaspati and Mamata both left. Thus, the child was known as Bharadvaja. No proof what. Although encouraged by the demigods to maintain the child, Mamata considered him useless because of his illicit birth, and therefore she left him. Consequently, the demigods, known as the Maruts, maintained the child, and when Maharaj Bharata was disappointed for want of a child, the child was given to him as his son. Maybe more about that later on. Purport, Vishnu Prabhupada. From this verse, it is understood that those who are rejected from the higher planetary systems are given a chance to take birth in the most exalted families on this planet Earth. So, okay, so apparently all these things that are going on are on a higher planet, and someone is rejected there, so they're not good enough for the heavenly planets, but you can come to a good place on Earth. That's what God said. Just like Narada Muni in his previous lifetime, in one of his previous lifetimes, he was acted improperly in the heavenly planets, so he was kicked out and had to take birth in the material world. But then he got the opportunity to become fully Krishna conscious. Okay. So here it says, when this verse is understood that those who are rejected from the higher planetary system are given a chance to take birth in the most exalted families on this planet Earth. Anyway, there's also what God said on that. So we'll go on to the next chapter. That's right. It's not. The problem is not. It's really not. You can't scroll it. Okay. There we go. Okay. I'm not sure if we're actually sharing it online or not, but we'll go from here. So, chapter 21, the Dynasty of Bharata. This 21st chapter describes the dynasty born from Maharaj Bharata, the son of Maharaj Dushmanta. And it also describes the glories of Rantidev, Achamita, and others. The son of Bharadvaja was Manu, and Manu's sons were Brihatkshatra, Jaya, Mahavirya, Nara, and Garga. Of these five, Nara had a son named Sankriti, who had two sons named Guru and Rantidev. As an exalted devotee, Rantidev saw every living entity in relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and therefore he completely engaged his mind, his words, and his very self in the service of the Supreme Lord and his devotees. Rantidev was so exalted that he would sometimes give away his own food in charity. And he and his family would fast. Once, after Rantidev spent 48 days fasting, not even drinking water. Imagine. There's a Ekadasi ladies at times. But for 48 days he didn't even drink water. Excellent food made with ghee was brought to him. But when he was about to eat it, a Brahmana guest appeared. Rantidev therefore did not eat the food, but instead immediately offered a portion of it to the Brahmana. When the Brahmana left and Rantidev was just about to eat the remnants of the food, a Shudra appeared. Rantidev therefore divided the remnants between the Shudra and himself. Again, when he was just about to eat the remnants of the food, another guest appeared. Rantidev therefore gave the rest of the food to the new guest and was about to content himself with drinking water to quench his thirst. But this also was precluded, for a thirsty guest came and Rantidev gave him water. This was all ordained by the Supreme Personality of Godhead just to glorify his devotee and show how tolerant a devotee is in rendering service to the Lord. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, being extremely pleased with Rantidev, entrusted him with very confidential service. The special power to render the most confidential service is entrusted by the Supreme Personality of Godhead to a pure devotee, not to ordinary devotees. Garga, the son of Bharadwaj, had a son named Shini, and Shini's son was Garya. Although Garya was a Kshatriya by birth, his sons became Brahmanas. The son of Mahavirya was Darikakshaya, whose sons were Triaruni, Kavi, and Pushkararuni. Although these three sons were born of a Kshatriya king, they also achieved the position of Brahmanas. The son of Brihatkshatra constructed the city of Hastinapur and was known as Hasti. His sons were Ajamita, Tvimita, and Puruvita. From Ajamita came Priyameda and other Brahmanas, and also a son named Brihadishu. The sons, grandsons, and further descendants of Brihadishu were Brihadanu, Brihatkaya, Jayadratha, Vishada, and Shenajit. From Shenajit came four sons, Ruchishrava, Vidhahuna, Kasha, and Vatsa. From Ruchirashva came a son named Hara, whose sons were Kritusena and Nipa. And from Nipa came 100 sons. Another son of Nipa was Brahmadatta, From Brahmadatta came Vishvaksena, from Vishvaksena, Udakshena, and from Udakshena, Mahavate. I need to raise this up a little bit. So tight. Yeah, okay. No. So I'm gonna stand that. So I'll continue. If you could raise this and raise this up a little bit. Yes. So continuing on. The son of Vimita was Yavirana, and from Yavirana came many sons and grandsons, such as Kritiman, Satyadriti, Kritamani, Suparshva, Sumati, Sanatiman, Kriti, Nikmi, Yuda, Shema, Suriva, Vipujaya, and Bahurata. Purimiti had no sons, but Ajamita, in addition to his other sons, had a son named Nila, whose son was Shanti. The descendants of Shanti were Shushanti, Puruja, Arka, and Ramyashtra. Ramyashtra had 5 sons. One of them, Mudgala, begot a dynasty of Brahmanas. Mudgala had twins, a son, Griyavrasa, and a daughter, Ahalya. From Ahalya, by her husband, Gautama, Shatananda was born. The son of Shatananda was Satyaviti, and his son was Sharadvan. Sharadvan's son was known as Krita. Sharadvan's daughter, known as Priti, became the wife of Dronacharya. So, going on with the chant. We can chant the first verse. Shri Shukavacha Vittatasha Sutan Manyor Rihat Shatro Jayastataha Mahavirya Narogharga Sankritis Narat Majaha Shri Shuka Uvacha Vittahatsya Sutan Manyor Rihat Shatro Jayastataha Mahaviryo Narogharga Sankritis Narat Majaha Shri Shuka Uvacha Vittatasya Sutan Manyor Rihat Shatro Jayastataha Mahaviryo Narogharga Sankritistu Naratmajaha Shri Suguru Vacha Vitatasha Sutan Manyor Vrihakshatro Jayastataha Mahavirya Narobharga Sankritistu Naratmajaha Shri Suguru Vacha Vitatasha Sutan Manyor Vrihakshatro Jayastataha Mahavirya Narobharga Sankritistu Naratmajaha Shri Suguru Vacha Manyor Vrihakshatro Jayastataha Mahavirya Narobharga Sankritistu Naratmajaha Shri Suguru Vacha Vitatasha Sutan Manyor Vrihakshatro Jayastataha Mahavirya Narobharga Sankritistu Naratmajaha. Word for word synonyms. Shri Suguru Vacha. Shri Sukadeva Goswami said, Vitatasha of Vitata Bharadraj, who was accepted in the family of Maharaj Bharata under special circumstances of disappointment. Surtat from the sun, Manyo named Manyu, Vrihakshatro, Jayaha, Jaya, Tataha, from him, Mahavirya, Naraha, Nara, Gargaha, Garga, Sankriti, two, certainly, Nara Atmajaha, the son of Nara. Translation. Sukadeva Goswami said, because Bharadwaj was delivered by the Marut demigods, he was known as Vitakta. The son of Vitakta was Manu, and from Manu came 5 sons, Vrihakshatro, Jaya, Mahavirya, Nara, and Garga. Of these 5, the one known as Nara had a son named Sankriti. Sukadeva Goswami said, because Bharadwaj was delivered by the Marut demigods, He was known as Vitakta. The son of Vitakta was Manu, and from Manu came 5 sons: Vrihatshatra, Jaya, Mahavirya, Nara, and Garga. Of these five, the one known as Nara had a son named Sankriti. There's no purport. Few verses have no purport. While Maharaj Parikshit, descendant of Pandu, Sankriti had 2 sons named Guru and Rantidev. Rantidev is famous in both this world and the next, for he is glorified not only in human society, but also in the society of the demigods. Translation. Rantidev never endeavored to earn anything. He would enjoy whatever he got by the arrangement of providence. But when guests came, he would give them everything. The members of his family. Indeed, he and his family members shivered for want of food and water. Yet Rantidev always remained sober. Once, after fasting for 48 days, in the morning, Rantidev received some water and some foodstuffs made with milk and ghee. But when he and his family were about to eat, the Brahmana guest arrived. A Brahmana guest arrived. Because Rantidev perceived the presence of the Supreme Godhead everywhere and in every living entity, he received the guest with faith and respect and gave him a share of the food. The Brahmana guest ate his share and then went away. Srila Prabhupada's purport. Rantidev perceived the presence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in every living being, but he never thought that because the Supreme Lord is present in every living being must be God. Nor did he distinguish between one living being and another. He perceived the presence of the Lord both in the Brahmana and in the Chandala. This is the true vision of equality, as confirmed by the Lord himself in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 5, verse 18. Vidya vinaya sampane brahmane kami hastani shuni chaiva sukha cha indita samadarshanaha. The humble sage, by virtue of true knowledge, sees with equal vision a learned and gentle Brahmana, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog eater, outcast, end quote. A pandit or learned person perceives the presence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in every living being. Therefore, although it has now become fashionable to give preference to the so-called Daridra Narayan, or poor Narayan, Rantidev had no reason to give preference to any one person. The idea that because Narayan is present in the heart of one who is Daridra or poor, the poor man should be called Daridra Narayan is wrong. The wrong conception. By such logic, because the Lord is present within the hearts of the dogs and hogs, and the dogs and hogs, then By such logic, because the Lord is present within the hearts of the dogs and hogs, the dogs and hogs would also be Narayan. One should not mistakenly think that Rantidev subscribed to this view. Rather, he saw everyone as part of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari Sambandhi Vastinaha. It is not that everyone is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Such a theory, which is propounded by the Mayavad philosophy, is also misleading, and Rantidev would never have accepted it. Okay, so the Srimad-bhagavatam is full of so many wonderful histories. Like this one we're reading a little bit of here about Rantidev. Personalities who were extraordinary. Srimad-bhagavatam is a Purana, Bhagavatam. And the Puranas are histories, collections of histories. So that's what it means. It's called, in Sanskrit, it's called Itihasa. Sanskrit word means history. So it's not just any history. You don't find American history and European history and this kind of history and that kind of history. We find history of personalities that either they were devotees of God, or histories of the Supreme Lord Himself, or different histories that are favorable for our becoming Krishna conscious. So here's the one personality that we're starting to read about, Rantidev. But he was in modern times, you probably consider him a crazy person. You're starving yourself, giving away your food. You think like that. But because he was obviously a self-devoted soul, a pure devotee of the Lord, and he saw Lord Krishna in everything and everyone. So he was always giving away everything for the benefit of others. So this history here, which we'll continue to read about, we touch on it in the summary. Rantidev, he fasted for so many days. I can't imagine fasting for 48 days. He just do the 48 days without even drinking water. But these were exceptional people in the previous age. So it was possible somehow. So he was like that. And then he's about ready to break his fast, enjoys the nice, he said some prasada made with milk and ghee, maybe in sweet rice or something. You don't know. But in any case, he was about ready to break his fast after 48 days of not eating or drinking anything. And let's say that his family was also fasting, but it was probably waiting for him to eat before they take anything. And then just when he's about ready to eat, or someone walks in, a guest walks in, and so he said, okay, he divided what he had, and then as you'll see, other people, two or three others will come in one after another, and so he gives away everything. And then in the end, they actually all reveal themselves to be different demigods who are just testing him, and really testing him to prove to glorify him. They already knew his position. They already knew his tendency. He was famous for what he did. So they created a situation where the different demigods actually appeared there before him as the Brahmana, as other people who wanted some food or water, and he was just giving it away. Then he revealed themselves to him, and just showed how he was so great and such a great exalted personality. And even as you can imagine, after fasting for fast for one day. Oh yeah, just wait that prasad in the morning. The guest, this is mine. And apparently the only food he had was what was there in front of him. It sounded like for the history here. It sounded like he had a big feast that was cooked, and he was just taking a little bit and go back and make some more. They made what he was about to eat was his. There wasn't anything else, apparently. So he was very happy to give it away, because I see Krishna in everyone's heart, so I'm giving to this person, I'm giving to this person. And then, of course, Srila Prabhupada makes the philosophical point here that although he sees the Lord in everyone's heart, he doesn't consider everyone as God. It's not that philosophy, that the Ridra Narayan philosophy is actually dangerous. I mean, it's my about philosophy, what it is. It's very dangerous, because if you think, oh, these poor people, well, God's in their heart too, so they're Narayan. They're just poor Narayan, and the rich person, he's a rich Narayan, right? That's the idea. The idea, because in Mayavad philosophy, in the end, you think that everyone is ultimately God, and in God's original, in God's highest form is the Brahmacharya white light. They aspire for that, but that's all Maya. That's all Maya, because first of all, the white light is the actually effulgence of Krishna's personal form. So that's there, and although God is in everyone's heart, super souls in everyone's heart, certainly that doesn't mean that living entity becomes God. So we're taking up Krishna consciousness, and from the beginning here, these things are made very clear. But the Ridra Narayan idea is, at least in India, it was very popular. Maybe still is very popular. It's very, and Srila Prabhupada, he came to establish or to destroy this idea, at least in the Western countries, of destroy this idea of nirvishesha shunyavadi, impersonalism and voidism. That's the second prayer of Srila Prabhupada. We say like that every day. Srila Prabhupada is very special. One of his very special contributions was to cut this idea of impersonalism. I remember when I was just taking up the path of Krishna consciousness, and we read things like this, and we read about Mayavadis like that. And so you would think, I thought, I won't say what anyone else thought, but I was thinking, Mayavadis, they're just some bewildered people off in India somewhere. They're the impersonalists. They're off in India somewhere. What does it have to do with us? What does that have to do with us who are practicing Krishna consciousness? We're not impersonalists. But actually, Srila Prabhupada came to the Western world to, uh, to change this mentality. But we were very much affected by impersonalism. Even though in the West we may not have the specific, philosophy. The Mayavads have a very detailed philosophy trying to explain why they came to the conclusions that they do. In the West, it's not so much that philosophy, but still the tendency is impersonalism, and a lot of that comes in just like the material sciences. Um, it's very preached very heavily against the material sciences because the conclusion of materialistic science is that everything came about from somehow, but it didn't come about. They try to explain everything, but there's no God. We can explain everything, Big Bang Theory and things like that. Well, actually, the Big Bang Theory, we always think of a big explosion. It's not Big Bang Theory. Even in that theory, it was not actually an explosion. It's something else, but it doesn't. But it's it's trying to explain how everything developed and formed into planets and all these things over a long period of time, and there's no mention of God. So that's the real problem. So Srila Prabhupada preached very heavily against the atheistic scientists who either directly or indirectly say that everything came about without God. That's the great danger. But in the Vedas, the Srimad-bhagavatam, we don't say that science is bad. That science is not bad. It's what's called scientism, which is this idea that you can that everything can be explained in the material world. The only way that you can understand anything in this material world about the material world is by just taking the information from the material scientists, from trial and experiment and so on. That's the conclusion of scientism. But actual science is there. We look in how much science there is in the Srimad-bhagavatam. You look in the fifth canto of Srimad-bhagavatam, there's very great detail given of the whole universe, the structure of the whole universe, things that we can't see, but the Vedas are like that. The Vedas give us so much knowledge of things that we can see, but also the Vedas give us so much knowledge of things that we cannot see. It's beyond our perception. Each class of living entities have some abilities. So we have some amount of perception. The demigods and higher planets, they've got their senses and their perception is a lot bigger than ours. They can see things in the universe that we can't see. Even they can travel from one planet to another. Okay. But in any case, there's a tremendous amount of detail, which is scientific detail, that's in the Srimad-bhagavatam and certain other parts of the Vedic scriptures. So we're not against science, we're against the atheistic idea that things come about without any God. That is the dangerous point. The time. It's 8:30 already. Sorry. Let me see. Stop here. Any questions, comments? Please. Okay. If there's no one, then I guess we finish for today. Continue Srimad-bhagavatam. Tomorrow we read Srimad Nectar, right? Srimad-bhagavatam Ki Jai.